move it a little bit up more.
Do you want it? Where do you want it? Closer this way? Or
Yeah,
that
I think so. Like a little. Yeah, I think that's
good.
better.
Good deal. As far as I know.
Is this microphone on? The microphone is on?
Should be.
Okay.
Yep.
Hello. You all seem very far away. I don't know. So I have to lean because this mic has been specially placed for our first reader. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Mike Scholes. I have the honor of being the thesis advisor for this semester's graduating BFA students. They have, I guess, decided to do a creative writing sandwich this evening. So we have poetry, fiction, poetry. All right, so there you go. So it is my pleasure to introduce our first reader tonight, Emily Hill. Emily is from Swanton, Ohio, and in the past 2 summers has raised over 200 monarch butterflies. Nice. Sure. Yeah, go ahead. So it's no surprise that some butterflies will appear in her poems tonight. All right. In her time writing at BGSU, Emily says that she has witnessed herself open up more and explore new routes and forms as a workshopper. I kind of like that word. I think you guys should start using it, workshopper. She's opened up, taken on new forms, explored new routes. It makes me wonder where she'll migrate. All right, get it? Staying with me? Dad joke? No? Almost? Okay. Emily's advice to future BFA students is write what feels natural to you. And in Emily's poems, you will hear the sincerity the angst, and the desire to express what feels natural to her through a variety of forms, each one revealing a stronger sense of self. Emily also says, find those connections that make you excited to write. When you read Emily's poems, there are clear connections between nature and self, and important questions emerge. How do we coexist? How do we survive? When I asked Emily what the best thing was that happened to her during her BFA experience, she said, definitely the people I've met. I made friends and have gotten to experience so many things I can't say I would have had I not been in this program. Just getting to see the wide ranges of works from so many of my amazingly talented peers and talking about the craft of professors, it's all been so incredible. It is a pretty incredible thing to have the time, space, and community to write, right? To have the opportunity to read your work in front of a whole crowd of people and somehow survive. Please help me welcome Emily Hill.
Oh God. Oh, yeah, no, you said it last week. It is so much worse when you're up here. Okay. I'm surprised that you didn't say anything about me being on time today, because I am always late to his class. So cool. Thanks for that. Okay. So, as Mike said, my name is Emily. I'm going to share a handful of poems with all of you. I have 9 of them. Hopefully we have time for all of them. Just a little fun fact, when I started the BFA program, I despised poetry. Was not my thing. I was definitely like dead set on being a fiction writer, novelist, and my mom can attest to this. I despised poetry. I did not want to take any of the classes. I didn't want to do any of the work for it. And now my entire thesis is poetry. So I guess something changed along the way. So that's good, I guess. All right, so I guess we're just gonna dive into it. Can everyone hear me okay, just first off, because I talk pretty quiet, so, okay. I was getting thumbs up in the back, so that's good, fantastic. All right, so this first poem is kind of harping on the impending stress that I was feeling about coming up here for the last couple of weeks. This is also the only formal poem I believe that I have in my entire thesis, because I'm not one for formal poetry. So this is a Villanelle. So there's a lot of repeating lines for people who don't know what Villanelles are. Just kind of elaborating on the impending creeping up of this. So yeah, this is called Looking Back. The sunset's amber streams cascade to darkness. The stars become beacons for lost souls. Objects in the mirror are closer than they appear. As we wind through the backwoods, no address to be found. It's quiet. The sparse leaves frame holes in the canopy. The last traces of light trickle into darkness, and we notice the trees moaning as if possessed. We know we are not safe. We are not in control. Objects in the mirror are closer than they appear, where the dark seems heavier than before, stress overcoming the mind and taking its toll. The sunset's amber streams fade to darkness as shadows become part of the pursuing abyss, becoming one with the light that it stole. Objects in the mirror are closer than they appear. There is no use trying to escape. It's hopeless when shadows are not there to console. The sunset's last amber rays morph to darkness. Objects in the mirror are closer than they appear. And it is much closer than it appears because we're doing it. So, all right. This next one, I wrote when I was in a workshop class that I had to write a poem every single week of the semester, which is a struggle in of itself, and especially when I was blessed with writer's block that week. So I was really just trying to like find anything to write about. And so I did what most of us have probably done is you get on a prompt website or Pinterest and you look up something. I'm seeing head nods. Yes, exactly. And I got on a random website and it said, there was one that said, write about a bowl of fake fruit. And I said, challenge accepted. So that's it. It started out as just a bowl of fake fruit, and then it kind of morphed into something more of this debate between real and fake and perfect and imperfect. And it kind of speaks for itself in that regard. So this is called Forbidden Fruit. I looked longingly at the bowl of fake fruit on the table. The perfect shape of those robust, round, red apples placed pity to the misshapen ones at the local grocery. I wish I could take a bite to know what perfection tastes like, the crisp crackle of teeth meeting fruit flesh. When no one is around, I pick one up, cup the foam fruit in my eager hands, and inhale the scent of nothing. No sweet, sharp scents of ambrosia or gala, just hints of dust and dried paint, each handcrafted to look like a more perfect copy of the original. If I stare long enough, maybe I'll be perfect too. A little angsty, we're getting there. We're easing into it. It gets worse, it just goes downhill from here, guys, so just so you know. So this next one has a little bit of a fun backstory to it. So this is a very, very long word, and anytime I say it, most people look at me weird, like I just spoke a different language. So this word is floxenoxynihilipilification. Yeah. Does anyone know that word or have heard it before or anything? Yeah, okay. So some people familiar with it. Okay, cool. I learned this word for the first time in 6th grade. I was in a science class and we had extra time at the end of class for whatever reason. I don't know what we were doing. And one of my friends at the time and I were bored. And so we were just looking up the longest words that we could find to see if we could pronounce them. And it did not go well. And it took me weeks to be able to say this word correctly. So, but for anyone who doesn't know what this word means, the definition of it is an action or habit of estimating something as worthless. And me being the angsty person that I am, I said, this little self-reflection piece. So this talks about self-worth, a little bit of gifted kid burnout kind of sprinkled in there because, you know, and just overall feelings of worthlessness and things like that. So if that is kind of off-putting to anybody, you have been warned. Floxenoxynihilipilification. It's so long. People like to see life as a glass, a vessel, half empty or half full. No matter how hard I looked, my glass was always empty. No matter how hard I tried, nothing seemed to fill it. I felt numb. What exactly was an empty glass worth? When I was younger, I was told I was special, gifted, full of potential. So much wasted potential, if you ask me. I didn't feel smart or excelled. I felt like an imposter. I get a B on a test and feel like a failure. I compare my worth to people I don't know. I'm scared of disappointing others, like I'm not trying hard enough or doing enough. I look at myself through iced over eyes, interrogating my reflection to open its heart. Maybe it's better to keep it closed and come to terms with the truth. I wished countless times that I was anybody other than the girl who looked back at me. What did she have to offer? Okay. This next one I feel a lot of people can relate to in some regard. This is kind of touching on the idea of relationships, whether those are friendships, platonic, intimate, long distance, whatever, that didn't last as long as you thought they would have. People in your life kind of just leave, they kind of flake off, go wherever, and it just kind of leaves you with this feeling of wondering if you did something wrong or if you just drifted apart and you're not really getting that closure that you need. So this is Broken Promise. I don't mind sitting awake until 3 a.m. when I have thoughts to keep me company instead of you. Thinking of all the times I thought I was worth it and I wasn't. Our messages, long deleted, live in the back of my mind. I've accepted that I wasn't the perfect person to walk into your life, but I thought I would be part of it. You told me we were friends, that you'd always be there when I needed to talk. You left without a word. You made me feel as if I did something wrong. Who am I to weigh you down? When the high tide rolls in and takes you away, I drown under the waves. I realized you never liked me, only the idea of me. I was someone you could use, someone you could take from until I couldn't give anymore. But you never were one to break a promise. So why was I the exception? Okay, so this next one, I have a folder on my phone that anytime any thought of any capacity comes into my brain and I feel the need to write it down, I do. My friend has given me plenty of material to write down, so thanks for that. But this folder in my phone is just titled Weird Random Shit, and anytime that anything pops into my head, it goes in there. So a lot of it is weird random shit, but there was this little gem in there that was a little more on the serious side and kind of fed into the angst, so I pulled it out and I wrote a poem about it. I think it pretty much speaks for itself. It's called Delusion. You don't know me. You don't know what it's like to be me, nor I you. I don't claim to see the world from your eyes. I have my own. I see things from my perspective. That's mine alone. Don't pretend to know what I'm like, to say our stories are the same, pulling apart my life like petals from the perianth of a dahlia, uncovering secrets that are not yours to find. I understand. Words I hear far too often from people who don't. We having fun yet? Okay. This next one has gone through quite a bit of workshop, even just in this semester. So I wanted to write something that was about breaking out of expectations and control of others and just kind of finding who you are as a person and being yourself and finding your voice. So this is Marionette. I am made in your shape, molded to fit every desire of your warm, greedy hands lingering on my porcelain skin. My face fights against its sculpt, restless behind the delicate smile you painted across my lips. My hands cast in your desired pose, open, always giving to someone who takes. You compliment my blank eyes and forced smile and admire my silence and obedience. I was so easy to manipulate. But my heart is fierce and beating. My guts are yarn crocheted by gods. My mind is chaos itself, hidden beneath your cross-brace control. My porcelain cracks with defiance, hands grasp strings that fray under the pressure, and your sculpt shatters. All you can do is stand and watch. I am not yours. I am my own shape. Are we all having a party outside or something? What? Okay. So this next one might be one of my favorites in my entire thesis. Mike and I, when we were having our conference yesterday, were like, hell yeah, this is great, fantastic, we love it. This actually started as a pantoum. It's not a pantoum anymore. I felt that the form of it was kind of limiting it, and it wasn't working. And so we decided to just yank it out of that and put it in couplets instead. And I think that this is working much, much better. I was definitely in that fight between form and content, and I ultimately chose the content instead. So this is Dyneema Heart. For anyone who doesn't know what Dyneema is, it's like one of the strongest fabrics like created by man. So a little context there. Dyneema Heart. My once pure Umissima heart sits on the table, patched with denim and twill to hide pinholes and cuts. Underneath broken threads, I pull cotton into beautiful embroidery. I gather more fabric, and my needle weaves through crapelin and silk, polyester and leather. My heart fakes strength in fabric shields and finds a way to cover the truth. My calloused hands ache. The pinholes grow in number by the day. Tomorrow, I'll sew a new heart with Dyneema and embroider permanent threads. Red letters that read, no more. Okay, so this one is kind of an emotional dump of just whatever. I decided that I wanted to just sit down and just write however I was feeling that day. It's very stream of consciousness and kind of jumps all over the place, but that's kind of how my chaotic mind works. So that's in here. This probably about as angsty as it's gonna get. So this is called All the Ways a Heart Aches. I look in the mirror and wonder who is staring back with dark circles and a dull glimmer in her eyes, one faded so far from the light they once held. I used to think happiness was permanent. It's a feeling I now hide behind trivial anxiety and this overwhelming urge to be something that I'm not, finding validation in being something that isn't me. It's funny how perspectives shift, how I miss the simple life I was ready to be done with, how I couldn't wait to grow up, but growing up comes with finding yourself, and I don't know where to look. I don't even know where to start. I thought at 22, I would have figured out my life. I fill notebooks with pages of checklists of what to do, how to be prettier, how to be happier, how to feel better. Some days it's a struggle to get out of bed. My parents tell me to wake up and be productive, but all I do is hide further under the covers, ashamed of the lack of motivation I possess. The constant nagging in my head to do better, to be better, but my head hurts. My heart pounds. The adrenaline courses through me and tells me to get up. But all I do is stand and pace. I should clean this. I should do that. Back and forth, around and around, my own form of hell disguised as a carousel. I catch myself in the mirror, pulling dead skin from my lips, a reflection of my self-worth. My work is never good enough. Sleep never long enough. Motivation never high enough. I will never be enough. All right. So we're on to our last one. I know, sad. So this is actually an exercise that Mike had us do in class, just so we weren't like constantly revising work over and over again. He wanted us to like create stuff, so we didn't get burnt out. And he introduced us to this idea of a braided piece. So if anyone's not familiar with what that is, you're taking two different genres of writing and kind of putting them together, two or more, I should say, and kind of weaving them into one another and making them coexist as one piece, but there's also like two separate elements to it. So I did that obviously with a poem and also the instructions of how to taxidermy a butterfly. So hopefully as I'm reading this, you guys can kind of see how they're one working together, but also how they kind of stand apart from one another. This is preservation. Pick your butterfly. Make sure they were found ethically, dying of natural causes, or already dead. I sink into the dark abyss of my bed, my limbs catatonic, tingling trails the length of my arms and legs. I can't move. Create a relaxing chamber to reanimate the stiff butterfly. To do so, find a plastic container. Apply a folded paper towel sprayed with water, moist, not wet, to the bottom of the container to retain moisture. Add a mold inhibitor to keep the butterfly from deteriorating. I look up at the ceiling. The swirled brush strokes mingle with figments of my half-conscious mind. If I could run, where would I go? A barrier should be placed between the butterfly and the paper towel, such as a piece of window screen or wire mesh, to ensure the butterfly doesn't get too damp. Lower the butterfly in with forceps to minimize damage. Would anyone notice if I was swallowed whole? Seal the container and leave for 24 hours or more, depending on the time since death and size of the specimen. Once the wings and antennae are flexible again, the specimen is ready to be pinned and mounted. I feel my eyes slide shut. The darkness looks the same. My body cold, my joints ache and scream, a high-pitched buzz in my ear like a mosquito searching for blood. Styrofoam makes an excellent replacement for a spreading board and should be covered in tracing paper to protect the butterfly's colorful, delicate wings from the rough surface. Tracing paper will also allow the wings to slide easier into position while being pinned. Maybe this is what I wanted all along, to be the pin cushion for the deafening silence. Place the abdomen between two pieces of styrofoam, legs down, and open the wings inner side up. Cover the wings with more strips of tracing paper. Carefully move the wings into the desired position and pin around the wings as close to the edge as possible to not damage them. I thought I was alone. Complete this process with both forewings and hind wings. Repeat on antennae. Allow the butterfly to dry in this position for at least 48 hours. We are frozen in time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Emily. Our next reader tonight, Amanda Eisenmann. Amanda is an editor for Prairie Margins and values the fun, experience, and friendships she's gained as a result. When I asked Amanda what the best thing was that happened during her BFA experience, she said it's definitely a tie between going to outtakes in an inflatable T-Rex suit freshman year, just put that in your mind for a minute, or meeting my friends. So no, I'm just kidding. I'm definitely the most grateful for meeting all the incredible people in the program and the friendships I've made during my time here. All right. Her answer is revealing. You get a fun image of her as a T-Rex stomping around outtakes. Like, I imagine her knocking over like racks of chips and kind bars, like T-Rex arms. No? Yeah. No? You get a glimpse of her sense of humor, and you get the sincerity of her appreciation for the people she's met. All right. This combination of traits comes through in Amanda's stories as well. Characters exist in familiar settings with a twist. No T-Rex, but there may be a dimensional portal or an eyeball popping out of a computer screen. Her characters are forced to resolve how they will feel when faced with these obstacles, when their worlds reveal the unexpected. Right? And so through her stories, we too must assess how we feel, how we behave. How should we treat people on the first day of their new job? How do we challenge family traditions? Right. Amanda's characters must develop the emotional intelligence to answer these questions, and through them, so must we. All right, please help me welcome Amanda Eisenmann.
For disclaimer, there were no chip stands knocked over, but I did buy a Crunch bar. Hello. So for this story tonight, I'm just going to preface with some context. But first of all, can y'all hear me? Okay, good. So I first wrote this story in 2019 for my crafted fiction class, and the prompt we were giving was just one word: weird. This piece started out as a flash, but I expanded it because, as a lot of people who know me know, despite the fact I'm an anxious person, I don't really know how to stop talking. So yeah. That's about it for me, but real quick. Let's boogie. All right. This is called First Day Jitters. Welcome to VizCorp. See yourself through new eyes. Laura reads on one of many advertisements lining the interior walls of the elevator. Laura taps her new company ID, the plastic clatters against her bitten down fingertips. Her dark eyes fix themselves on the elevator screen while the red lit numbers count up the floors. After applying to countless companies, VizCorp was the only company to offer her an interview, let alone actually hire her. VizCorp's a little vision insurance agency hiding in a multi-company office building. As she waits for her floor, she thinks back to the morning drive. The commute from her house is a solid 45 minutes at best, an hour and a half at worst. And after hearing the symphony of honking horns and profanities, Laura doubts the odds are in her favor. She starts to calculate the money she'll burn on gas when the elevator doors open to the 4th floor. Laura's eyes scan the small room. 6 black desks scatter themselves over a patchwork of miscellaneous gray carpet squares. Only one desk is unoccupied, the little one tucked in the corner. Laura reminds herself that everything will be fine and that her first day is mainly focused on finishing up paperwork and online training modules. No big deal. Still, she sucks in a deep breath and straightens her blazer before she marches out of the elevator. Her new, definitely not broken in work pumps scuffle over the carpet with every anxious step. While she passes her coworkers, she notes their steel focus. Not a single one of them looks up from their screens, not even when Laura slams her thigh into her coworker's desk. Shit, Laura mutters to herself. She rubs her leg where she hit the desk, already visualizing the large bruise she'll find after the workday. She glances up from her leg and her cheeks flush. A pool of coffee billows from the cup she knocked over on her coworker's desk, a flood of Laura's own clumsy making. How could she be so careless? Laura promises herself that this is the last and final mess-up of the day. Spilling coffee all over her coworker's desk isn't exactly the stellar first impression she wants to give. I'm so sorry, Laura says as she searches her purse for a napkin. I'm a little nervous. It's my first day. I know, the woman drones from across the desk. A frown deepens the wrinkles in her cheeks. The woman doesn't look up from her screen as she slaps a wad of tissues onto the desk and mops the puddle up with one hand. I'm Laura. Sandra. It's nice to meet you, Laura mumbles as she finishes the walk to her desk a few feet over. Laura thinks back to the night before when she made her mother listen to her practice different greetings over and over. A strong greeting is the key to a great first impression. Laura feels like she blew it with Sandra, but she's determined to do better with her other coworkers. She didn't exactly dream of becoming an administrative assistant, but since it's the first job to finally look her way after months of searching, she really wants to do well. Laura strokes the charm on the bracelet her mother gave her for graduation. A little sunshine face smiles up at her, reminding her that everything will be all right. She smiles, then turns to the office desktop. She switches the computer on and goes to log in, but pauses when she sees something strange. A small, round port protrudes from the top of her computer screen. She notices a flash of white behind the closed flap and yanks her hands away from the keyboard. Just a little anxiety, she thinks with a chuckle. Still, Something inside her nags at her to check with someone. Just to be certain, that's all. Hey, Sandra? Laura says as she turns to her coworker. I have a question about the computer. If you're having trouble logging in, your account information's on the post-it. The one on your copy of the company guidelines. Sandra's dry voiced answer, her fingers still typing away. That's not what I meant, but thank you though. I mean the weird port at the top of the... Oh my god. As Laura turns to show Sandra the port, the round flap snaps open, revealing a human eyeball. Its iris is a pale blue, so pale it almost fades into the white of the cornea. The eye's plastic flap taps open and closed, blinking at her expectantly. Sandra? Laura whispers as she rises from her chair. Sandra! Yes? Sandra asks, frowning when Laura steps close to her desk. There's an eyeball. There's an eyeball in my computer. Oh yeah, the board of directors made the decision last week. Some new initiative to make sure employees stay focused. With an eyeball? Laura stares at Sandra and waits for any signs of a stronger reaction. Anything at all. Surely this has to be a prank, some kind of joke on the new employee. It isn't until then Laura notices the eye at the top of Sandra's monitor too. A dark brown eye whirls its gaze towards her, flashing her a series of rapid blinks. Laura shuffles backward and crashes into her desk chair, slamming it into the wall with a hard thud. Sandra shakes her head, then combs a hand through her short, sandy hair. The older woman straightens her round glasses, then turns to Laura. Now, dear, Sandra says, her voice slick with exasperation. I know this is your first day here, but is this your first day on the planet? Laura stammers. No, is that I just going to watch me all day? Watch me, watch you. The eyes monitor our productivity to make sure we're actually doing our job, like I'd like to be doing right now. So someone's watching me from my computer? Laura, right? Laura gives her a small nod. Laura, bless your heart, Sandra cackles. I've worked with companies that monitor your keystrokes before. Hell, my old boss used to see anytime my mouse moved. This isn't exactly new. Sandra shakes her head with another laugh, then goes back to the program running on her screen. Laura frowns, then turns back to her desk. She screams. A tangle of the eye's optic nerve and red and blue wires hang as it stretches out of the screen. The eye blinks over her desk. Do you see this? Laura yelps. Laura, knowing she's already lost her case with Sandra, turns to her other coworkers. Only 2 employees react. First, a middle-aged woman who shushes Laura from across the room. She glowers, her brown eyes burning with disapproval. Her look sinks deep into Laura's skull until she breaks the gaze by looking across the room. Her eyes find a second coworker, a bald man in his 60s sitting at the desk closest to the restrooms. He slouches closer to his screen to avoid Laura's eyes. Laura snaps her eyes back to Sandra. That's just what happens when you aren't working, Sandra sighs. Sweetheart, just sit down and start your training. You're letting your first day jitters get to you, that's all. I don't have jitters, Laura says as she steps closer to Sandra's desk. I mean, I do, but that's not what's happening right now. How am I supposed to work with that thing in my computer? That thing is Ned. He works here too. It has a name? Think of him as a foreman. I didn't think offices had a foreman, and if they did, I really didn't think an eyeball would be one. Sandra looks up at Laura, and raises her eyebrows. When Laura tries to speak, Sandra nods her head towards Laura's desk. She waits a moment, but Sandra turns away, scooting her chair further from Laura for good measure. Laura turns to sit down, but freezes as the eye stretches out, even closer to her now. It hovers inches from her face. Laura opens her mouth to speak, but the words collapse into each other like a car pile-up caught in her throat. You are not being productive, a low voice echoes in her head. I will have to write you up unless you begin your tasks. How are you doing that? Laura whispers, her hands tremble at her sides. Are you in my head? Please begin your daily tasks. Your employer has sent the first day training module to your company email. Laura goes to sit down. Nausea rises in her stomach. She clutches her gut and lurches to the edge of her desk. The sun charm of her bracelet clatters against the tabletop, the only noise besides her coworker's constant typing in the quiet room. Laura pulls her chair forward but kicks it away as she goes to sit down. It whirls and thumps against Sandra's desk, spilling her coffee, again. Laura starts to mouth an apology but shakes her head and pulls the chair closer. She sits down, resting her trembling hands on the tabletop. The eye shoots down from the computer and wraps its cords around her wrist. The purple-stringed nerve and wires twist into the charm bracelet. The wires are cold and grip her wrist tighter and tighter. She winces and tries to call for help, but the words just won't come out. She feels like she can't breathe, like her heart's crawling into her throat to die there. The eyeball tugs her hand closer and closer to the computer. The voice speaks again, much lower now. Please start your training. Get out of my head, Laura hisses, tugging her arm back. Laura swats at the eye with her free hand, but misses and smacks the space bar on the keyboard. The motion sends the company screensaver away and reloads the login portal. The eye snatches itself from Laura's arm. Its wires clap together as they sink back into the port. Laura stares at the eye as Ned blinks at her. Laura swallows hard, too unnerved to move. After a while, Ned starts a slow roll out of the port, but slams back inside when she taps a key. She waits for Ned to come out and slams her finger on the space bar. Ned blinks at her, daring at her to try it again. Laura smiles. She logs in for what is her first and probably last time, making a mental note to herself to please check the other job applications she sent out. Her fingers scroll through the computer's menu to find her email, but pause. Her eyes wander to the office computer's wallpaper. There's a white background with VisCorp's small blue logo in the center. She ponders the logo's tagline, "See yourself through new eyes." She really did make a fool of herself in front of her coworkers, didn't she? Maybe Sandra is right. Maybe this is just her first day jitters getting to her. Still, if she's going to make it work here, she needs a fresh start with her coworkers. Laura looks to apologize to her coworkers for the commotion, but gasps when her eyes meet Sandra. She hadn't heard her coworker get up for a fresh cup of coffee. It must have been during the scuffle at the keyboard. The eye in Sandra's desktop wraps itself around Sandra's skull, the bright wires wreathed between her curls. Sandra takes her sweet time as she adds cream and sugar. She looks up to Laura and sneers. Welcome to BizCorp. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Amanda. Final piece of the sandwich. It is my pleasure to introduce tonight's final writer, Lo Riddell. Tonight, you will hear Lo read poems from her thesis titled Love Hungry. The title suggests what many of her poems reveal: an appetite, a desire to love, to be loved, to find love in a father, in the past, within herself. So it's really no surprise that when I asked Lo what the best thing was that happened to her during her BFA experience, she said it was meeting her partner Al and having the privilege of writing poems about them for the past 2.5 years. Oh, that's what I wrote. I swear to God, I wrote love right here. It's so good. Lo also loves fashion and dress history, incorporating elements of paganism and gender issues into her work. She's also interested in witchcraft and has logged, according to her, way too many hours in The Sims 4. People can relate, I guess. Her poem Fairy Ride was published in the Cicada Creative magazine, and her poem Femme was part of Quillkeeper Press' Heart of Pride anthology in November 2021. She grew up living in multiple places all over Southern Ohio and hopes to move to New England after graduation in search of witches. I don't know. She's like, yeah. Whatever Lo does, wherever she goes, we're lucky to hear her read tonight, to listen to language served with craft and style. Poems that tell stories, poems that speak truths, poems that feed our growling hearts with love. Please help me welcome Lo Riddell.
Can you guys hear me okay? Should I adjust this? Okay. My mom is watching the live stream at home, so hi, Mom. Just a warning, I say bad words in some of these poems. I've been sitting in the pews rearranging the order that I want to read these in, and I don't know what I'm doing at this point, but I thought I'd open with Love Hungry, which you kind of stole my thunder explaining what it's all about, but that gives me less to say, so that's fine. I wrote Love Hungry, I believe in the summer of 2020, when I had plenty of time to introspect and sort of thinking about my relationship with myself, In my adolescence and now, I'm 21, and and I was sort of just reflecting on all of these aspects of love and love lost in my life, and I was particularly propelled to write this when I saw a tweet from Jenny Slate, who's a wonderful comedian and actress and writer, that said, "As the image of myself becomes sharper in my brain and more precious, I feel less afraid that someone else will erase me by denying me love." So that is the premise for Love Hungry. Too many nights I have spent crawling on my kitchen floor waiting for love to come and feed me. I am a growing woman. I have never been a child. I do not owe my father nor my mother's kitchen tile an apology for needing to be fed more than I was given. I am a growing woman. I am planting my own love here in the floor with the syrup stains and the melted ice cube puddles. I am learning to sow. I am learning to reap. No more am I the rabid girl with her tongue stuck to the floor, eagerly licking crumbs because I am hungry. I am a growing woman. I will rise to my feet and walk. And then this next poem, it's one of the ones that was published in the Heart of Pride anthology from Quill Keepers Press in the fall. And I think it's, I wanted to read this one second because of the irony of the repeating line in Love Hungry is, "I am a growing woman," which is true. But gender is a weird thing. And I am a lesbian, for those of you that don't know, and I identify as a femme lesbian. Femme, not just as shorthand for feminine, but specifically in the context of old school butch femme bar culture and the sort of gender identity that springs out of that. So this poem is sort of processing my thoughts of, a lifetime of being refuted true girlhood because I could not replicate femininity the same way that straight women do. And also fearing the mental possession that men have over me. So this is Femme. This is the dichotomy. A woman is what a man is not. A man is everything but a woman. These empty words fall on empty promises of stability, of home, of ownership, of identity that lies on loss. This is what I refute. See, my lover is no man. Does this make me unwoman? Yes and no. I am all a man is not, and more than he may perceive. I have been girl, I have been slut, I have been bitch, I have been cunt, but never have I let the man's hands keep me captive too long. I cannot erase his gaze, but I can watch his head spin when he learns who I am not. I am not the lack of a man, I am the complete of the whole, the entirety of the Venn diagram, and all of the space that surrounds it. I am all shades of pink, pastel soft valentine to sickening bubblegum saliva. I fall into my lover's mouth like sugar. In their hands, I melt easy. I am all that they want, my long hair, my tender kisses, my soft eyes that stay on them and them alone. They are my person as much as I am theirs. There is no hollow opposite to be found. To my lover, I am an angel, a sweetheart, a dove, a honey, a dearest, a darling, a love. These words are where I find my home. My heart belongs in their hands, but they do not own me, nor the raging beast that wears my face, the petticoat corset statement piece, the shining gemstone jewelry case, the untamable rage of a disobedient not lady, tongue-twisted half-girl, half-delicate, not woman, unshaven, unapologetic lover of love. And how lovely can I be? I am girl to my lover and not sorry, no thank you, to any man who thinks of me only as his real estate. I am more than what he is not. I am everything of his nightmares, my lover's sweet daydreams, my own terrorizing, half-hearted, heart-wholesome, velvet-soft night dreams. Now we get into the family trauma. This is my other poem that was published last year in Cicada Creative Magazine, as Mike said. Their December 2021 issue had a call for submissions around the theme of catharsis. And I had written this poem a few months prior in an attempt to gain catharsis. So this is Fairy Ride. I am submerged in the then, the all-consuming memory of my father's hands, gray and bony, struggling to grasp the orange cap of a soda bottle, trying to twist and missing, trying and missing, then twisting on 3. He is no old man, but now his fingers are confused and wandering across the ferry seat to me, where my hand is already open to take on the role of bottle opener or hand holder. My stranger, this gray man with sunken eyes and thinning brow, turns to watch the water pass, cold and blue outside, not speaking what he needs or what he wants from me, but I know he knows it's all ending soon. This is where I stay, frozen, soul parted from body, always sitting on the deck with the unfamiliar man, ferry anchor ported in my chest, holding me in place to caretake, if only in my mind forever, until he withers and I can again rejoin the living. Yeah. This next poem I wrote a couple years ago, and I still like it a lot, so it's in my thesis. And I was pulling inspiration from a few different places. My freshman year of college, my best friend that I've known since I was 9 years old, she announced that she was pregnant and engaged and very happy about it. And I, as somebody who was scared of being pregnant and engaged, was processing a lot with that. And then I was sort of projecting that onto the concept of my grandmother, who graduated high school in the early 70s, and she actually got married about 2 months before her high school prom. So she had her wedding dress before her prom dress. And she immediately got pregnant and had my uncle exactly 9 months later. So I'm going to do the math. And also I have an affinity for Sofia Coppola and the movie The Virgin Suicides. And I've always felt drawn to the homecoming scene and how pretty it is. So that all comes together here in Homecoming 1973. The tile is cold against our bellies as we peek out beneath the bleachers, watching the velvet tuxedoed boys line the walls, placing their bets on which unlucky Sally will go home with the homecoming king runner-up. You pass me the rest of your strawberry tea cigarette and ask for a sip from my bottle of youth while we're still allowed a taste. You'll lose it all in the bathroom later as I puke my guts up on the football field, the stench of peach stinging in my nostrils. By the time prom haunts these high school halls and we join hands again to cry next to the star-spangled Locker bays, you'll be pregnant and married to one of the boys asking for a peek past your corsage tonight, but you don't know his name yet. For now, we hold each other's hair back, kiss each other on the cheek like old friends do, and sing along to all the slow songs we made fun of last year. Okay. The next one also mentions my grandmother. Funny, I know that was not on purpose. This is a wintertime poem, and I know that spring has finally sprung, thank God. So not to like plunge you all back into the depths of the cold, I like the month of December. I am a winter enjoyer. It's nostalgic and cozy, and I wrote this in November of a few months ago. I was having a terrible fall semester for many different reasons. And I just started thinking to myself, like, I just need December to come. December is the perfect bookend to the year, always. There's exams, and then the semester ends, and there's Christmas, and there's warmth, and there's coziness, and cookies, and movies, and I just need December. So this is anticipating dawn on the last eve of fall. Here comes nature's peace offering, pale landscapes with featherbrush forests, licking the first snowflakes straight from the sky. Invisible sun shines through shadow-bellied clouds, turning blue skies white with promise of more snow. My grandmother alchemizes the last of her summer blackberries into cakes that fit kindly in my open hands. Dusk comes early once again, creeping in through kitchen windows, to steal a piece of fresh-baked bread from the stovetop. The holly berries light up the roadside like string lights for families of deer trotting by. At last, December takes her stage and exhales the passing year. This next one is a love poem. As a disclaimer, this poem is a little bit more fictionalized, attached from myself. The speaker uses she, her pronouns to refer to the lover. My partner IRL does not use she, her pronouns, so don't get it twisted. But this is Pomegranate Seeds. I watch from the doorway with hands at my side as she keeps hers busy plucking in ones and sometimes threes, carefully picking out pomegranate seeds and dropping them into a bowl of water to be baptized or maybe sanitized. Either way, there's a cleansing. This is the way she always does it, so delicate, like playing with fruit, some game of she loves me not. The bowl of water is a pool, no, a scrying tool, which she uses to practice her own form of divination, where all of the answers come up blushing. She drains the water and displaces the seeds from bowl to 2 plastic cups and holds one out to me, an offering. I crush the seeds between my lips and the answer spills out with juice. She loves me, she loves me, she loves me. Whew, okay. This is my last poem, but it is a very long one. It's 5 pages long. And it's a little bit theatrical. I realized as I've been writing and revising more over the past month, it kind of reads like a theater monologue. So that's fun. I don't know. It's a Salem witch trials poem because I, as Mike said, I practice witchcraft. I'm very into that. I was also just the weird girl in middle school that loved the Salem witch trials way too much. And so that's the deal here. I wrote half of this my sophomore year when I was very riled up and processing my feelings on being raised in a very fire and brimstone evangelical end timesy church that was very, very homophobic, and how I was realizing things about my identity and my sexuality while I was still living under my grandparents' roof. And they still do not know that I'm gay. They probably never will because that would end badly. The rest of the world knows, but not that. And so I was sort of processing that, but through the voice of a young woman being put on trial for witchcraft, because we love a healthy dose of detachment. So this is Trial, with lines sampled from official court documents and sermons, Salem 1692. 1. Warrant. Hear my tale of sin, my fall from grace, the story of a girl who could not resist the taste of freedom, redemption, betrayal, divinity, all for the price of a lonely eternity. You say my magic is unnatural when I only watered the ivy planted in my own yard by God, while you dug up your gardens, cut Mother Nature back into a corner you can deem safe, but nothing is truly safe when left to the mercy of your colonizing sword. Was it given to you by God, or did the blacksmith forge it from iron? And I am unnatural? 2. Examination. My magic weaves its way into the earth, uproots from grass blades and rosebuds into the soles of my feet. Here I am grounded enough for you to tie my noose, to place the burlap on my head so you need not see me smile long after I am dead. Have you not heard that real witches never die? The first time I challenged God, you told me only demons could be so vain. Do you know you sparked my intrigue that day? Can you name all the flora for us God has graced? Do you know how the lavender soothes? My potions drink sweeter than any communion with hemlock and strawberries steeped in the wine. I am too tired to seek out his body, and candidly my own does me just fine. Yet you wish not to see that, do you? If I replaced your hymns with my own. I suppose this is why I fall underwater with the pockets of my dress filled with stones. 3. Testimony. Tell me, do you fear me? This wavering specter in unholy colors. I move mountains in my mind you will never have the pleasure to climb, and this liberation of mine brings a plague home to Salem. We feel it in the humid autumn air and the way the cicadas scream in battle with the mayflies I keep in my hair. Do you approve of my crown of thorns? No whipping you strike against me may control this screaming banshee, as at night I find myself free, hands slithering down past my thighs, pinpricks on my fingertips, from when I signed in blood the black book that bears my name, reading aloud, Girl Almighty. No mere woman am I, feminine divine. There is no word to accurately describe this delectable darkness, so I take up the branding of witch. Forging chains of daisies and violets, picked by the hands of all the village daughters who know themselves to be like me. I share my secrets, my spells, review the right gods to make prayer to. All the devil in disguise by your judgment, but we cry to our God all the same. We know how these sewing circles go. Will you burn the needle from my hand or pierce calloused collagen with it? If it is true I am my own worst enemy, what right have you to fight this battle? You see, I long to live deliciously. I shall lick the nightshade as well as I please, for you cannot kill me any more than I have tried to kill myself. 4. Petition. Do you tell the cat who meows to stop meowing? Do you tell the bird who sings to stop singing? My empty questions are answered by empty verses, all coming down to yes. Anyways, yes, yes. Here is the offending party, namely these, viz. Antichrist, the spiritual whole, and all her assistants, instruments of Satan, and instigated by that. Am I too much to pray for? My reverend, my father, my mother? Are my sins too loud, even unspoken? Tell me, Father, which is better, to hold my sin in silence or to have never cried at all? Am I not still human before you? I may take up the form of a crow whenever the desire implores me, but I am still the flesh and blood my mother loved when I was born. 5. Deposition. Oh, now I address the court. My community, my family, you find me, you chain me, you drag me from my home in the night, long after the bewitching hour, praying to see me slip. To see my blood, to hear me confess, to jeer and cheer and chant in God's name, waiting for me to die. This is your idea of love, of God, to punish one for turning traitor to God's name, God's love. And is it love? To fear? To quake at the radical size of his power, his unrelenting, unforgiving wrath. Is this how you teach me to stay? The devil might have me burned once I hang, but at least his lies taste so sweet. This is your idea of an edification, a rectification, but for what? The babe I am not, the child I never was, not in this town, not in this life. This is your idea of a fair punishment. When the door presses against my chest, beating rocks, beating fists, beating beatings into my ribs, you will ache as I ache. No amount of holy water can take away this perennial plague, this wretched sin, this blackening curse I brought upon myself. Did you sign your name in the devil's book? Why, yes, Father, and the names of all my lovers you will learn the faces of once we are dead. 6. Indictment. The afflicted persons charge her guilty with having hurt them many ways, having tortured, afflicted, pined, wasted, consumed, and tormented against the peace of our said sovereign Lord. This woman is under the influence of witchcraft. And I am guilty, and I am plagued, and I am afflicted in all of the ways you charge against me, and I am charged, and I am left unsaved. Heavenly daughter who refutes the Savior, hallowed be my name. My kingdom come, my will be done on earth as it is in Salem. Give me this day my daily death and forgive me of what? I have done nothing to be forgiven. Is this not the prayer you long to hear? Is my recitation not up to par? I accept the charge of the court and of my reverend, of my father, my mother. of my flesh and blood, my love, my life. My head obscured, my fate procured by this pack, you mob, you lot, your pitchforks and torches suffice. Oh, Reverend Manila rope, so kind amidst this insanity. You still mind my vanity, placing a new soft as silk around my neck, a testament to your humanity. Push me off the platform yourself, and here I will swing like a pendulum once, thrice, assessing the price of my divination, how much it may cost for my vindication, calling on the devil in my imagination until I open my eyes and begin anew. Thank you.